Okay, let's tour our grove here, and we'll see what's going on. Here's the pump, of course. This is more meant for Cubley and some other friends of mine. It's a 4-inch well, 105 feet deep or so. And there's a psyllid sniffer looking for aphids. There's a grove of sorts being maintained across the street, an old Valencia grove. You can see how big the trees were on Duncan rootstock, and some brand new ones that are planted last year. Back on my grove, you can see where the problems are of keeping the grasses down. I've got to go and attend to them with a riding lawnmower and a couple of quarts of Roundup, or a gallon of Roundup. There's the trees are in two parts. There's about 100 of 4-year-old trees now. They're going on their 4th year, and some of them are good, like the one on the right here. Some of them are not so good, and some were frozen out. There was about 50 of them frozen out of the younger trees and back. This one shows poor canopy, but a lot of fruit, although I don't think it's what I call a death bloom. This is a great example of how the rootstock just melded into the orange, Valencia orange scion. These were all budded grafted by my next door neighbor and citrus mentor Ron Williams. Up and obviously in the front row, we're trying to get, that's up near the pump, so they get watered easier and more often, I guess, because it's garden hose right there. But even this tree looks weak. Here's an insidious thing. This milkweed vine, you can see it's already grabbed in 2 places on the lower branch, on the left and in the center, and now it's going up to the next branch, and then it'll go up to the top of the tree by the end of the month. In 3 weeks or 4 weeks, it will be at the top of the tree. And then it causes real damage because it puts out these hand grenades. There's some vines at the top of a 4-year-old tree right now up front. Those vines are dead because I just pulled them up from the base a couple of weeks ago. This I haven't gotten yet. I have to go do some milkweed vine work. It puts out pods that they're olive drab. They look like hand grenades. This is more important. Look at the golden aphids, I think they are, and they just love milkweed vine. I've seen them on the stem of a milkweed vine, bumper to bumper, like highways in Tokyo at rush hour, or maybe all day long there. There's some more of those damn aphids. I don't think those are the tristeza kind, but I don't know for sure if those are gold and brown citrus are the same thing or not. I think the brown citrus aphid is really brown. These are gold, but I don't think there's any such thing as a good aphid. You can see them next to my thumb. Back at the end of the first row, and we got 25-foot spacing, so because these trees are going to get a lot bigger than Theo's Cuberly's trees. There's some milkweed vines that have to be attended to. They're reaching for the sky. They'll go up to the moon if you let them. They're insidious, and they make these hand grenades that have 50,000 milkweeds, just like the kind up north that you can blow with your mouth and they float all around the place. Put a seed down. One of those pods can infect 50 acres down here. There's the base of a milkweed vine. It's going up, and if you don't pull it one year, another one will grow up the next year in a rope-like fashion. See how the new one's climbing right over the old one and wrapping around. Good example of some eggs probably deposited by a butterfly. The yellow swallowtail makes egg casings like that. All the white ones, I think, are yellow. I get them mixed up, but they're between the moths and the butterflies. It's no good. There's a psyllid sniffer. She also doubles as a swamp dog. And these cattails growing up against the pond on the north side where the winds blow them up there, and then they root. This is a great garden. It's only 2 years old. Great soil. Ron Williams, next door neighbor, runs it, but it's my land, and we split some of the treasures from it. Right now, the only treasure, and it's really good, it's peppers, green peppers. See them a little bit later. This is a great example of an orange tree gone bad. This was when I got this property 15 years ago. This was covered with oranges, just covered. The nursery here, this is Ron's nursery. He's growing orange trees there to replace some of the ones that died or are sick. Here's a Hamlin orange tree. Great. This was one of the best trees in the grove a couple of years ago, just 2 or 3 years ago. And then the right side succumbed to tristeza, and the whole tree is basically gone. It'll go from prime to 0 in about 4 years, 3 years. That one side is already gone. I wanted to push these older trees. You can see they're dead, they're dying. Although there was enough that it was actually commercially harvested this last winter. But this last winter was probably the last year it'll be commercially harvested. We may be able to get some great oranges if we have big enough ladders next fall. There's a rootstock that you can see it's this is you can see the two where it's cut. There was a rootstock, and just in back of it, you can, in amongst the weeds there, you can see a sweet orange growing. So I have to get down there and clean that out. That was budded. This is a good example of a sweet orange bud that was grafted by Ron in the middle of this trunk there, a 1/2-inch diameter trunk. And he actually budded 2. You can see both of the sweet oranges growing. In case one of them didn't take, then he'd have the other one. But that guy doesn't miss. There's so many around here with 2 on them. Perfect example there. See how they're about 6 inches above the ground on the rootstock, and they'll grow so fast because they have the old roots that were frozen to the ground about 2 years ago as 2-year-old or 1-year-old trees. And we had bad freezes both years. Okay, here's a tree that looks pretty good. It's got some nice dark green growth, and it's been foliar fed. It's got new growth on it too. It hasn't hardened off yet. That looks like it's overgrown, but it's not really. It's just the way the angle is. You can't see the trees. Oh, we've left the grove now. We're in the adjoining 10-acre field, or the back half of it, I guess. This is about 5 acres we're looking at. And the hay is getting about ready to cut now. Oh, we're back in the grove again with 2 beautiful grafts. No thanks to me, I guess. You can leave both on, Ron says, and you have a tree that's kind of, both have sweet oranges on it, but they'll sort of grow at angles to each other, which isn't the healthiest thing. They stick out in the row and make it a nuisance for the tractor later on, because those things get big and they'll I don't know what to do with them yet. It's not a decision that has to be made now. Now we're looking at something called Citispell. It's a secluded place. Oh, that's a big tree. On the other side is Citispell, where you can actually hide a truck during the day, keep it cool out of the sun. And here's the back. This is a big tree where we can also hide a truck, but we'd love to sit down in our chairs there and look out at the field in the blazing heat of the day. You can find beauty. You can stay there all day. It's comfortable, except sometimes when it's been wet like now, there's a lot of mosquitoes. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. It's delightful all winter down there. But you can sit there and be in the shade and have a little lemonade, and you can look out on the grove or the field and let Goldie run around. Here's the farm pond and Ron has managed the weeds around it with glyphos. He's expert at that. He's got a wiper attachment for his tractor, so he can keep it out of, it doesn't get in the water, or at least minimal, very minimal, and yet it takes the weeds down so they don't grow bushes all around the thing and you can't see the pond. There's a water puppy, my water baby. She just loves it there. I'm just scared to death. As soon as I open the car door and she goes out, she goes running for the pond and goes in. I'm afraid that someday there's going to be alligator in there. They do migrate around Not the real huge ones, because the real huge one wouldn't be able to stay there because of not enough food. But there could be a migrating 3 or 4 foot alligator that could take her under and kill her. This is a grover's worst nightmare, a dead tree with crud growing on each side of it. One is Brazilian pepper invasive brush tree, and the other thing is a cabbage palm, which is invasive too. You can see them both, one on each side. This cactus has a story. It's been around since 1992 when I found it down along the railroad tracks about a mile east of me. And it lived in Chatham for a couple of years, and it lived in Acton in an apartment for a couple of years. I used to bring it out on the porch to get a little sun in Acton, and other than that, kept it under grow lights. And then I returned it to Chatham, and then I returned it to here, and planted it here. So that's very special to me, that cactus. Hey, you can see some suckers on that tree. This one was grafted last year. It was a tree that was frozen 2 years ago, and in 1 year it's got all that growth. This is one of the original 4-year-old trees now. Those are all 4-year-old trees. Some of them are doing damn good, and some I think are dying already. They've got greening. Some of them. I think they've been given a semi-new lease on life with foliar feeding, but I'm not convinced that's anything but a loser's game. There's some old Hamlins dying. This is probably their last year too. More milkweed vine. You can see the vines sticking there, starting to go up that. There it goes, right up that around that branch. Oh, you can see some yellow aphids up on the vine stem, a little bit higher. There. You can see the yellow aphids. Those are no good. Look how that sucker's looking for a branch. I mean, it'll grab onto your nuts if you let it. You got to walk fast. It'll change your voice. So, this has really got. That's a healthy tree. It's got a lot of new growth. It's got a lot of fruit set. It's been fertilized well, and it's got adequate rain this year. Look at that. That's got milkweed vine at the top. I got some work to do. Some of those are dead. I've already pulled those, but I've got to get down there and spend a couple hours just doing milkweed duty. I have to do it a couple times a year. You don't have to do it in your new grove yet, although I believe it or not, I think that Blake across the street has a milkweed vine that she's encouraging on her front fence. And if it is a milkweed vine and it gets mature, it'll put out these hand grenade pods, and one of them could ruin your vine. Well, not ruin it, but it would be a major problem in 5 years in your grove. You want to keep those milkweed vines out of the grove. It's easier to do at the beginning. In an old grove, especially if the grove's been neglected, it's a much different issue. It's a lot of work for me each year. Look at those green peppers. They're just awesome. And on my diet efforts now, I'm having 1 or 2 of those each day. Just love it. I mean, I feel like I'm eating pure nutrition. Fiber and low carbs. You just can't beat it. Can't beat it. And then bunching onions. Ron, these are Ron's, and he told me that they can grow all summer, and I'm all ears for anything you can grow all summer. Down there in the open part, we just tilled it. I'm going to till it a final tilling next week, and we're going to plant okra there. Oh, here's his nursery where he's growing some baby stock. This is a 50-acre, part of a 50-acre piece behind me, the orange grove, that was in watermelons this year, and they've harvested them and taken them off. They had a monster crop, but I think they ruined part of it with some spraying to kill the foliage, I think, so they could get to the melons, and they might have put it on too thick, and it really burnt the melons too. And I don't know, some of them were wasted. I mean, it could have been half or 3/4 of them wasted. Huge mistake. That's what Ron thinks it was burnt. They were burnt.